Good morning, everyone. Welcome to binary.com. Welcome to this trading room where we're going to take a look at the charts together starting at 8 a.m. UK time every Monday, as you probably know. So, this is a live room, actually. It will also be recorded, but I'll explain that in just a second. It's hosted by binary.com. My name is Chris. First of all, though, before we start, the risk disclaimer explaining that trading for exchange and global financial markets is considered high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. And this webinar is for educational purposes only. All right, so by continuing watching this webinar, you agree with the risk disclaimer content and are aware of the risks involved. Thank you for your attention on that. So this is live, but if you want to watch the recording, it will be available when you register yourself with your name and email. It's very simple at blog.binary.com/weeklytradingroom, and then you'll get an email when the recording is ready. In the meantime, let's head over to today's goal. We're going to take a look at the calendar quickly, but then move on to the euro dollar, pound dollar, dollar yen, Aussie USD, and XAU USD. So this week is, let me start at the top here. Monday is a pretty light news so far this week. As we can see here, we have, for instance, German IFO business climate today. And then later this week, we have the USD consumer confidence, second estimate on the GDP, on the pound, new home sales on the USD, unemployment claims on Thursday, and Friday some scattered news as well, but nothing major. The obvious, usual light, medium, and high impact news according to this source. Good, let's move on and take a look at our charts. That's the most important, in my opinion. So this is the weekly chart, and we can see that the euro dollar slowly but surely keep remaining that upside angle with the green line as a support line. And we can see that the price is trying to push up, but it is bumping into severe resistance around this level. So the question is, will price be finally able to break through it? And will it be able to break through with sufficient power to move up to, for instance, the next resistance, which is the 78.6 fib at 143? Or will indeed price fail? Will we not see a push through the red here and the stop at 138 and 138.90? Then we could see a failure, for instance, and we could see price move down back to retest supports, right? For instance, 133, 131, 127. Those could be areas where price could fall to eventually, and maybe lower. We have to keep an eye on this green line as a support line. It's a very important line, obviously, and we have to keep an eye on the resistance. Very important levels, of course, within this euro dollar, and this could be an ascending wedge, for instance. Both lines are, in my opinion, the most important confirmations we could have. So let's zoom into the daily, and we can see that basically the green line to support the resistance right in here, where price is having a lot of trouble to break through. That's why I have a red line here too at 138.10, because it could become a potential head and shoulders, but doesn't have to be. The neckline of that would be something like right in here, where we have the support lines, or this green line is the same, in fact. If we look at the fibs, most recently we bounced off the 61.8 fib and another 61.8 fib. Those targets are in fact at 138.10, and the bigger targets are at 139.50, 140, 141, 143. That would be the breakout scenario to the upside. Back to the 4-hour chart, or down to that chart. And you can see that the 4-hour world is very choppy. It's a very sideways zone, indicated by, of course, the fact that we're just not breaking to the upside. We're hitting this resistance, but couldn't break it. So basically, in its entirety, we're going sideways. Most recently, we had a pretty sturdy fall, and we had a break of that. So if we zoom into the hourly now, let's take a look at more recent price action. You can see that most recent price action, we're having a support line like this, roughly speaking. Something like that is acting, and we have a resistance line like this. So this is the lower time perspective. You can see the 4-hour world had a lot of downside, but the 1-hour world is showing a lot of upside here. and we're in a triangle most recently. All right, so if we keep that triangle in mind and then zoom out to the 4-hour chart, you can see that that is looking like a bullish triangle to me. All right, because it is looking like an uptrend most recently, a upside bounce. So personally, I wouldn't be surprised if this trend line, let me make that a bit different color. This purple one gets broken for an upside continuation up to first this target, and then we'll have to see. There's actually the levels a bit lower at 138.11. Wouldn't be surprised to see a break above purple up to blue, and then maybe to red, and then who knows, maybe further once we break above those levels, right? Something that remains to be seen. Now, if we do break below support, below this channel, then we could see a bigger fall, at least to test maybe, for instance, these bottoms in here. So on the shorter time frames, in the 4-hour and 1-hour world, I would think that these two lines are the most important to understand in the intermediate future what could happen, or the more recent future what could happen. And then, of course, in the longer term, it's a question whether we can break above red and the tops, or will we fail and break below green. But from the shorter term perspective, this purple and black are important. So that shows all of the potential, I would say, on the euro dollar at the moment. These are the key lines that I'm keeping an eye on. Let's head over to the pound dollar. Now, pound dollar is showing a lot of bullishness, first of all, because we had a very, very big move up, a bull flag, a break, pullback, continue, pullback, continue. But most recently, we did have some difficulties here with the pound dollar continuing because we had a pretty big pin bar on the daily chart, showing, of course, a potential reversal, right? If the daily candle is bearish with a big wick like this after a significant run up, then that is always a potential stalling point, or maybe even a reversal point. So with that said, we can see that there is a potential for the pound dollar to move downwards. So we can put a fib and see where the upside might continue. Now we stopped at the 38.2 fib. Price could go to the 50, the 61.8, or even lower fibs. All right. If it does bounce up, let me make this a bit different fib. Purple. If it does bounce up, you can see that we had a 50% bounce here of this upside so far. That target is higher, is the minus 272 target at 168.80 and 171.60, where we see a multiple levels of confluence of fib targets, 3 of them at the same level. So that could be the intermediate target eventually. Now at the moment though, price is moving down, so we'll have to wait for a clear bounce, and then there could be a potential space up to that level. Right? Nothing goes in one straight shot. It could be something like this. So for the moment, price action is bearish, but looking for price to move back towards support for upside continuation for the moment. All right? If we don't get the confirmation and price just keeps on moving down, then this could be a huge reversal, and price could keep going down. There's nothing wrong with it. But if we do get a confirmation of a bounce, then there is a potential to move up as well. So waiting for that for the moment. Let's take a look at the 4-hour chart. And we can see price is moving down, but slowly here. And this is more looking like a bull flag, but it could be a channel as well. Right? Something like this. It's possible. And we'll have to keep an eye on the bottom line, because if that bottom line breaks, there could be reason to expect some bigger downside. For instance, to move down to the 50 fib, and later maybe to the 61.8, and who knows, maybe even to the 78.6 fib. Those would be the spaces to the downside. Of course, any of these fibs could still be a bouncing spot, right? Be careful of that. Any of these fibs. And a break above the channel would indicate the likelihood of price to indeed move to those bigger targets, as I indicated before, to 169 and 170 and 171 and higher. We have to keep an eye for that move. We have to keep an eye on this line. For the downside, we have to keep an eye on this line, and of course, potential fib supports that are very major levels. Let me see if the hourly says anything differently. You see, the pound dollar had a very big spike up, but didn't get followed through. Actually, got a big downside. So we're seeing some continuation of that downside. So as I said, the 38.2 fib here. The next one could be the 50. Now, in the bigger context, let's take a look at the weekly chart to get an idea of the bigger levels. The question is here: is this just still a retracement, basically, for more upside like this, or was that the temporary end of that upside, and we're going to see a bigger retracement before we might move up? That's the question. We did break above this top, so that is a potential bullish signal for the long term. But the question is, when will that materialize? If we zoom in, we can see last week was bearish, right? But the week before was very bullish candle. So if currency does get back to, for instance, the low of that candle, which is around 164, that's still definitely a bouncing spot. This is still all 163, 164 is definitely still support. All right. So although there could be move to the downside, watch out, because any of these levels could be that bouncing spot, as I already was warning for. Once we basically break below 163 and this trend line, then there could be some more space to the downside. Until then, bearish price action, but bullish bounces could be around the corner, and then we could see an uptrend, which we are definitely in. If you look at this weekly, right, you can see higher highs, higher lows. Each candle has higher highs, higher lows. Even last week had a higher high and higher low, despite the fact that it was bearish. All these candles have that characteristic. So that's why downside very cautious, upside potential still very strong. Let's take a look at the dollar yen. Dollar yen, we've been talking about the massive weekly upside here, followed by this triangle that you see indicated by the purple line, and then the break out of that triangle to the upside, and now a hook back to the 50 fib and bounce. So is that a move back to the 50 fib for a gigantic upside? Could be, but we definitely need a break and some confirmation, right? First of all, preferably we need a break above this monthly resistance line right here, indicated by the black one here. If we do break above it, the minus 272 target at 107.70 and the minus 618 target at 110.80 are the primary targets. Now, how do we know? Well, first of all, of course, we need a break of this trend line, as I said, but also we need a break of this smaller consolidation. Once we break that, then there's a potential move up to that next resistance line, and then we'll have to see who's the winner, the upside trend or the resistance, this monthly trend line, for more downside. All right. In the intermediate future, though, we're looking at a 50% bounce and a potential for this to move up. But when do we know it is indeed moving up? We need a break above these resistances. Above this blue line, for instance, this is all resistance. Price will need to break above it. Okay. Once it does, price could stop at the minus 272. So there's just a small space there. But once it breaks above minus 272, then there's more space up to the minus 618 and the minus 1000, etc. And we will have that bullish breakout scenario. This is looking like an ascending wedge with higher lows and tops being equal to each other, which is typical for a ascending wedge. So if we do break out, then that would be the potential breakout trade. If we don't break out and we break below the support line, then things are not looking as bullish, and there could be some downside, smaller downside. Still be careful of this bottom, but if that bottom cracks, then there could be a fall from 100.75 down to 120, and then below 100 down to 99, in my opinion. All right, so why is that? Because if you look at this daily chart, you can see 99 is a very important level, because here is the top. If that level gets broken, this is not looking that much bullish anymore, right? If this 1080 gets broken, then there is some potential to fall down to 100, which is the 61.8 fib. So basically, it's the 61.8 and this top that are so important. This 61.8, this bottom here, and this top here. Those will be still potential supports, although there could be some falls in between. Or the other scenario would be, of course, the upside breakout scenario. All right. So pretty straightforward for the dollar yen, in my opinion. Massive uptrend on the daily, weekly. Still, although definitely hitting that monthly resistance. So which one's going to win? That's why we had a retracement here. That's why we also, of course, because of the daily and weekly trend, also had a 50% bounce. So we're in between daily, weekly support and basically monthly resistance here and 4-hour resistance here. So it's a bit of a mixture. We need price to give us a confirmation of which side is stronger. Let's take a look at the odd USD here. This is the Aussie. Let's take a look at the daily chart. We can see strong downtrend, hook back to the 50 fib, which I don't have on the chart. Let me put that on the chart right there. So that's a 50 fib bounce, as we can see. Price moving down, but most recently getting a spike up. So is that spike up a reversal or a retracement? Let's take a look at the 4-hour chart. And you can see this is the spike up, pretty strong. And most recently, price has had problems at the 38.2. What fib is that? The 38.2 fib is the last fib of this move down right here. All right. So the 38.2 fib of the entire downside here of this green swing high, swing low. If price respects that level, we could see falls to the downside. For instance, down to the minus 272 target at 83.50. There's also a different minus 272 target of this 50 fib. Right? That's at the same level. We see a confluence between those fibs at around 83.50, 84. So that's the potential downside scenario. How does that look like here on the 4-hour? You can see if price breaks below this triangle that we have here, there's a potential for price to fall, for instance, down to the support line. And if it breaks that, then down to the bottom. And if it breaks the bottom, then down to the target that we mentioned. So those are the key levels. We have this trend line, and this support, plus these tops here. Right? So that is the potential for price to move down, and then below the bottom, of course, the biggest move. So how about upside? Well, first of all, we haven't broken this support level. So there's always a potential for price still to continue up, despite this resistance that we've already seen. Price has respected that level, but hasn't broken support as yet. So we're stuck in between the resistance again and support. And price will have to break one of these two for us to get an idea what is more likely. If we break above 38.2 in the top, there is a potential for price to move ups and downs up to the 50 fib, which then should be resistance level for some downside at least. If not, a bigger reversal. So that's the basically that's the key aspects that I'm looking for. I'm looking at these trend lines to have an idea which of the scenarios is going to unfold, and by keeping an eye on these confirmation lines, basically I'm waiting for the price and the currency to tell me which direction is the most likely. All right, so it's always best if you let the market decide instead of trying to decide for the market. And these lines are, in my opinion, critical to make that judgment. So really nothing to add. We could take a look at the hourly, but it's stuck between these two black lines, so nothing much really to trade between them. There is a potential maybe for price to break out of this resistance, for instance, and we could see some upside maybe above this purple up to the top again. I think that's a bit of a risky trade because it's apparently it's in a very big consolidation, so that's always risky. So, with that said, let's take a look at XAU USD. If you have any questions, by all means, let me know, and we'll take a look at that. In the meantime, let's take a look at gold. Gold getting finally some rally up. We had a tremendous uptrend, big correction, now looking like a potential double bottom at the moment. So let's zoom into the daily chart, and you can see that the price bounced exactly at the previous level, or roughly speaking at the same level, and we had a breakout of this correction. We were nicely trending to the downside, as you can see, but price slowly but surely pushing through that resistance and now making some upswing here. So let's zoom into this upside. You can see big uptrend here. How far can this uptrend go? Let's take a look at the daily before we dive into that 4-hour chart. First of all, there's a resistance at 1360. We should be aware of that. Also at 1430. And then from the weekly perspective, there's a resistance at 1520 as well. And we should be aware of 1480 as the 50 fib. No, sorry. 1486. 1488 to be precise. So back to the daily, we can see there's a potential for price to move up here, up to the next resistances like this. Okay, those are the spaces potential to the upside. So let's go to the 4-hour chart, and we can put even a trend on this channel like this, a channel on this trend, connected tops like this. The price is moving up in this channel, roughly speaking, to the upside, and we know the targets to the upside. Now it's just a question for getting a good potential entry here, but the targets to the upside are clear. Maybe some resistance or bigger retracement first before taking it to the upside makes sense. We had a very small one here, like that. This flag already broke and seems to be continuing. All right, so what was the next target? Let's take a look. Well, basically we still have this uptrend channel top in the way. Bigger target is 1360, so it could happen. It's a small upside. We could see another correction and an upside. Personally, I would rather wait for this bigger correction to happen because price is pretty limited in its potential if it's so close to the uptrend channel. So I would rather wait for a bigger correction down to the bottom of this uptrend channel, personally. All right. Thank you so much for your attention. And thank you for being here. We'll be back next week on Monday again at 8 a.m. UK time. That is Monday, I think the 3rd of March we'll be back. So not only will we take a look at the weekly candles, not always do we take a look at what can we expect with the daily candles, but also at the monthly candles. All right, so that's a big summary could be expected on next week, Monday the 3rd of March, 8 o'clock GMT time. Once again, this is the link, blog.binary.com/weeklytraderroom, and looking forward to see you next week.